So this is an indie game that both greatly excites me and somewhat frustrates me. It is a jam submission, as you can see. It's got some, I suppose, credits and credentials, not too much info here. It is a game that is very, very clever and very, very exciting, but also frustratingly difficult, and I think more difficult than it needs to be. I will show you what I mean, and then we can go. I'll show you some gameplay, and we can go through the game and do some critiques afterwards, but not too much. I don't want to dig into it too much. Right. So the game is called Cursebreaker. If we go into it, we can see the tutorial. So the UI is obviously very minimalistic, very stripped down, but that is a game jam game, bearing that in mind. So the tutorial says, magical locks have sealed the tombs for centuries, but thanks to modern research it's now possible to counter the wards. As a Cursebreaker you need to know 3 basic strokes, which is a curve, a sharp, and a connector. So the curve shape and the sharp shape, and then the connector you join 2 strokes together, because the 2 strokes can't be joined together. You'll see what that means in a moment. The length of the stroke and the width and the height of the stroke manipulate the movement of the purple key. So the shape defines the horizontal direction. The shape of the stroke decides what the direction is. The length of the stroke decides the distance. And the width and the height of the stroke decide the height. Alright, well, we'll experiment with that for a moment. And then there are targets on the screen. You're a purple dot and you have to hit the targets to win. Right, so if we step into the first lesson, I will show you the concerns that I have with it. So here is our gameplay UI. We have this is the lock shape. These little black dots are sort of the key points that we need to hit with the purple dot. How you can see, curvy shapes go left, sharp shapes go right. Did it say the width and the height of the shape decide the up and down, the left and right distance? Okay, so what we need to do is make the purple dot go up and left. So we need to go left, so it's a curve. We need to go up, which was that the length? I think the length was sideways here. So the height of it we need to go up. So if we draw sort of a long curve like so, you can see the sort of the light purples where it's going to go once we enchant it. So if we enchant it, the purple goes up there and collects those 2 dots. So now we need to do the opposite. So we need to draw a sharp shape, and this is where the first problem comes in, because that's very, very difficult for me to make a sharp shape with the mouse. It requires a little bit more precision. You can see how absolutely awful my curve is. And yeah, that's the first critique. But let me try and see if I can get it. So if we draw a sharp shape like so, my sharp is too curvy. This is a problem I get quite often. Okay, see, that's come down a bit. And now we need 2 connectors here. Okay, so that has worked a bit better than it has done before, except that I missed the dot. It has taken me a lot of fiddling to get to this point, because drawing the shapes and getting them to actually work is tricky. And yeah, we'll talk about that in a moment. I just want to try and actually finish this level. So if we draw a little curve like so, it's not a sharp, it's a curve. Connect it up. Will that work? No. So now we need to go upwards. Dispel that, curve it. No. No, it thinks that's a connector. too much. I need to make it very shallow. My sharp is not as sharp, it's a curve. Oh, so we're kind of moving at angles here. There we go. So okay, so I managed to get it close enough to touch the dot. As you can see, that was fiddly, but we have made quite a nice looking magical symbol, which is sort of the goal of the game, is to get to that point. And then the next one, we have now a new set of dots that we need to move the purple thing to, and we need to draw new shapes to get to it. You know, we can draw them between. This is too long. Yeah, so this is the game, and that's absolutely fantastic. As it is, it's a really fun game. Come and give it a go. It's an experience. But now, criticisms, and this is going to take a little bit. So let's get into these. Firstly, the UI and the explanations. It took me a while to work out what I was doing here. So the tutorial needs a lot of fleshing out. Please take these criticisms within the context that this is a game jam. So this is me, I suppose, in a way, nitpicking at where I want to see the game go, not something that I think is bad about the game as it currently is. As a sort of game jam entry, as an Itchio free game, this is fantastic. It's a really fun and interesting experience, so don't take me wrong. But to take the game to the next level, firstly, the tutorial needs a lot of work, a lot of fleshing out. The UI needs a little bit more work. Something I thought of is, as you're drawing the shapes, like in the tutorial, you have these little markers sort of showing the width and the height and the length. Sorry about the banging in the background. It's a neighbors doing construction. These markers, or something similar to this, some kind of magical effect showing how it's being calculated in some way, might be a good idea. It might make it a little bit easier for the player to get a grasp on what's going on and what the plan is here. The sounds are great. Maybe some kind of musical sound or something like that. More mystical sounds around it. I don't know. Something might be quite nice to flesh it out a bit more. It's a little quiet. Don't forget to add sound controls so you can turn either the sound or the music off if there is music or anything like that. The artwork is great. It wasn't clear to me that these were buttons, so maybe some kind of mouse over effect on this page. Something to as it mouse overs, it lights up to say, yes, you can click this. This is a clickable thing, because what I actually did was I thought that the tutorial meant this is the tutorial, and I fought with the game for a while to figure out what was going on. Having said that, the actual tutorial wasn't hugely more helpful, but as I said, that needs to be fleshed out and made more user friendly post game jam. The feeling of the game, again, everything is nice and responsive. Everything works. I think it is just difficult. I think it needs to be simpler to draw the shapes, to get the shapes accurate enough to tell the game what you're trying to do. It's more of a balance thing. It needs to be, obviously you're going to have a wide array of potential players. You're going to have people who can draw with the mouse really well, to whom this will probably be quite easy once they get the hang of it. And then you have people like me who, despite having been using a mouse for as long as there have been mice, and playing competitive gaming and things like that, I'm still quite terrible with it, as this curve on the screen shows. This was supposed to be a nice even curve, like in your tutorials, and there clearly wasn't one. So yeah, in terms of the feeling, I can only imagine how complex the code is on a web browser game, in the engine, to actually interpret shapes like this. So yeah, I don't know how easy it would be to make it simpler or harder, but a difficulty gradient does need to be adjusted, because as a regular game player, this is difficult for me. So that's the feeling. Which brings us to the immersion element, and again, this is a tricky one to talk about immersion, because this isn't really, to me, this doesn't feel like a game. It feels like a game mechanic. This should be included in another game. like a mystical thief trying to break into noblemen's houses that have magical locks. If this was the lock-picking mechanism, that would have been incredible. Or, using this as a sort of a spells and counter spells system rather than a lock-breaking system. This is how magic should happen in your world, and this is how you build spells, how you write spells into your book that you can then use later. Something like that. I know there's games out there that have tried something like that, but this so far feels the most interesting and the most viscerally satisfying for that. As a game, not bad. I don't know why I'm breaking into tombs. It's generally seen as a bad thing these days. Flesh it out with some storylines, some context. Again, this is a game jam. I don't think game jams care too much about that kind of stuff. They should. There should be a rating, if there isn't already, on the fiction and the context and the background of a game. It really is an important part of gaming, pulling the player in and giving them motivation to be the hero or the anti-hero or whatever the sort of the player's character within the game is. So yeah, that for this to become a sort of a serious game standing on its own and not a game jam entry, it's a lot more motivational depth, a lot more immersion needs to be done. So in summary, a really, really interesting, very exciting game mechanic, mildly interesting game, could do with some fleshing out, but the difficulty level needs to be adjusted quite a bit, and I'm really hoping that's a focus that you're working on. I don't know if the game jam has happened yet or anything like that, but please don't let this fall away once the game jam is over. Seriously develop this game, put some effort into it, put some context behind it, and a little bit more work on the UI and the difficulty of it, and I think this could be a moneymaker, a game that you can put on the on the Itchio storefront or maybe even Steam, with a lot more kind of storyline behind it, and yeah, make some money, and we all need that. So that is Cursebreaker in a nutshell, and I hope those critiques helped. I hope they make sense. And I'm really looking forward to seeing more of this. Potential players who might be watching this video, come and play this. It is an interesting experience. Get an idea of how it works. Definitely give the dev some love. If you like this video, click like. If you want to see more Itchio games reviewed and some other gameplay, hit the subscribe button and the subscribe bell. If you really want YouTube to feed you more stuff on games and or game reviews and or Itchio and things like that, seriously comment on the comments, because that is how you train the algorithm. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.